The Disappearance of Maura Murray. What the leading theories reveal. On the evening of February 9th, 2004, a 21-year-old nursing student named Maura Murray crashed her car on a desolate New Hampshire road. When police showed up just minutes later, the car was locked and she was gone. There were no footprints in the snow, no signs of a struggle, and no Maura. What happened in that tiny window of time on that dark stretch of Route 112? For over 2 decades, this question has haunted investigators and fueled a sprawling internet mystery. To really get the mystery, you first have to get to know Maura. She was a standout student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a former West Point cadet, and a gifted athlete. By all accounts, she was disciplined, driven, and had a bright future in nursing ahead of her. But in the days before she vanished, things started to get strange. On the afternoon of her disappearance, she emailed her professors claiming there'd been a death in the family. A story her family later confirmed was completely untrue. She packed up her dorm room belongings into boxes. She stopped at an ATM and withdrew $280, nearly emptying her bank account. Then she went to a liquor store and bought about $40 worth of alcohol, including Kahlua, Bailey's, vodka, and a box of wine. She was caught on surveillance footage at both the ATM and the liquor store, and she was all alone. And then, for reasons we still don't understand, Maura Murray packed her car and started driving north toward the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Around 7:27 p.m., a resident on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, heard a loud bang and called 911. Maura had spun out on a sharp, icy corner, and her black Saturn was now wedged against a snowbank facing the wrong way. A few minutes later, a local school bus driver, Butch Atwood, was heading home when he saw the accident. He pulled over and spoke to the young woman at the scene. He said she was shaken but didn't seem injured. She begged him not to call the police, claiming she'd already called for help. But that was a lie. There was almost no cell service in that area. Atwood, sensing something wasn't right, drove home and called 911 himself at 7:43 p.m. The first officer, Sergeant Cecil Smith, arrived on the scene at 7:46 p.m., just 3 minutes after Atwood's call. It had only been about 10 to 15 minutes since Butch Atwood had left her side. But when the officer pulled up, he found the car locked with its windows frosted over. Maura Murray was gone. The initial search was baffling from the start. There were no footprints leading away from the car into the deep snow, which suggests she didn't just wander off into the woods. A scent dog was brought to the scene, and it followed a trail from a glove found in the car for about 100 yards east down the road before the scent just stopped. This strongly suggested she got into a vehicle. However, it's worth noting the glove was new, and some, including Maura's father, have questioned the reliability of the track. Inside her car, police found her packed bags, textbooks, and some of the alcohol she had bought earlier. A rag was found stuffed into the tailpipe, a strange detail that could mean she was having car trouble, or it could be something else entirely. Her wallet and keys were missing, as was a black backpack she was believed to have with her. The case quickly went cold, leaving behind a ghost on a lonely road and a series of haunting questions. The first and most lasting theory is that Maura simply chose to disappear. Her strange behavior leading up to the trip, the fake email, the packed boxes, the cash withdrawal, all point to someone planning to start over. Maybe the crash was an accident, and fearing a DUI, she took a ride from a passerby to continue her escape. But the biggest question for this theory is, how could a young woman with no resources vanish so completely for over 2 decades? The scent dog evidence makes a strong case that Maura got into another vehicle. This theory suggests a stranger stopped, offered her a ride, and then abducted her. The remote location and the short window of time would have made her incredibly vulnerable. Some witness accounts, while not always consistent, mentioned seeing other vehicles or people near the car before police arrived, which fuels speculation that she wasn't alone for long. This paints a chilling picture of an offer for help that turned into a crime of opportunity. Could Maura have panicked after the crash and run into the vast, dark woods despite the lack of footprints? Disoriented and possibly under the influence of alcohol, she could have easily gotten lost and succumbed to the brutal New Hampshire cold. Those who support this theory say it's easy to get lost in those woods, and that initial searches could have missed her. However, investigators have stated that repeated, extensive searches of the area have turned up absolutely nothing. Over 20 years later, Maura Murray's case remains unsolved and is now considered a suspicious missing person investigation in New Hampshire's Cold Case Unit. Despite new forensic analyses and searches, some as recent as 2022, no solid answers have been found. Her family continues to fight for her, never giving up hope for a breakthrough. We're left with the same chilling image: a locked car on a dark road and a young woman who vanished into the cold night air. What do you think is the most plausible explanation for the disappearance of Maura Murray? Share your theory in the comments below. And if you want to see more deep dives into perplexing cases, make sure to like and subscribe.